Hey Austin, it's Stefan again. Thanks again for sending in another video. You had a couple questions in the notes section, so I just want to get to those first, just so I don't forget. I'm going to read them here. I'm wondering if this is because I'm doing it incorrectly coming from the inside, or if I'm rushing from impact. You said it felt a little jabby, basically, when you stop at parallel in the downswing through the ball. I think the reason that feels a little jabby is partially you're correct. I think you do rush it a little bit through impact. I think you could just go a little bit slower. Um, you can barely even touch the golf ball and it'll go off the ground. So especially when you're doing those chipping drills where you're actually hitting the golf ball, you could definitely slow that pace down from shaft parallel through the ball. Secondly, the reason I think it feels a little jabby is you probably, I'm making a bit of an assumption here, but you probably feel when you stop at 6 there, or shaft parallel on the downswing, you probably feel like you're going to hit it fat, perhaps. Almost like how is the club going to get down to the ground, but how you don't hit it fat and how you kind of finish those pieces is you go into extension, or the legs start to straighten, the arms will straighten, all the things that we've talked about, and that gets the club out of the ground, um, and that will greatly help, I think, with that jabby feel. And we're going to touch more on that here in a little bit. Okay. 1 second. And another question you had here is, I also noticed when I tape the full swing down the line, my hips really spin out. So when I'm practicing, when my hips are close to the target, I'm close to impact. Is this what I should feel? Basically, that part of that is just your natural feeling. So I'm basically just, when we're doing this drill, we're trying to change up the sequencing a little bit. Not to say that I don't want your hips to open to the target, because I certainly do want them to open to the target. But you're just changing up the sequencing a little bit, and so some of that awkward feel is probably what you're feeling. So for instance, when you stop right here at 6, or shaft parallel here, hips being pretty square like they are now is perfectly fine, or maybe even just a couple degrees open would be, I would say, optimal alignment. So things look pretty good there. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through the drill here. I'm just going to play it real time, and then I'm going to talk about a couple things as we go along. Okay, so first, obviously, I don't have a face-on view. If you could, for me in the future, always send in a downline and face-on. But even without the face-on, I can tell that you're doing a really nice job of getting the weight forward. We can actually start to see the trail foot bank here. So that's something that we've talked about, getting more weight forward earlier. So this, for at least from this camera angle, this looks really good. Okay. All right. So then when you go from, I think this has always been where the hiccup is. When you go from 6 to shaft parallel here, again, let's say you stay in this forward flexion. So what I mean by that is your back is kind of bent over. Your legs are, obviously bent a little bit. Let's say you don't extend, you don't push your pelvis forward. Let's say you just stay in that position, and you went ahead and straightened your arms from here. You would bury the club in the ground 1.5 feet behind the golf ball, right? So the feeling would be is, we know the arms need to straighten, but you need to get the club out of the ground, so the legs will straighten, the hips will actually push forward like this. Now, they're going to do that as you turn towards the target. So when the hips push forward and changing that tilt in your pelvis, your belt buckle, if you had one on, would actually be pointing, down range. Okay, and I know we've gone over this stuff before, so I think you have a pretty good idea what I'm talking about. So like when you're going into the follow through here, for instance, you do a nice job at turning but I'd like to see you push your butt underneath your head faster here, okay? I mean, even with that said, this does look better though, actually. Just make sure that the arms are pretty straight. Again, I can't see that, but I just don't want them to be too close to you at this time. I'm going to go over that again though here in a moment. Just an indicator to me that they aren't as straight is just here in the follow through. They look like perhaps they'd be relatively flexed, but anyways, I'll go over something else here in just a moment. So I think this is the one where you hit the ball. So this is nice here as far as getting the weight for the forward. This is something we've been working on. And then all in all, this is quite a bit better coming through the ball. Just a couple slight modifications though. Number one, I wouldn't mind seeing it just in general be a little bit slower, like we talked about earlier in the video. You don't need to rush this. But I'd like to, again, see the extension just a little bit faster, and a big one would be pushing your butt underneath yourself here. I'm going to show you that from face on in just a moment. But since we have down the line, I'm just going to talk about the down the line for a moment, okay? So this is pretty well, you're finished. You don't really go much further than this, okay? I'm going to get Noah here to a similar alignment. Of course, this is a full swing, but we're basically looking at the same types of things here. Let me back up just a touch. So what you should be able to tell, just if we look at his shirt here and his back, you can tell that there's more extension here, so I can kind of see his shoulder blades coming back towards the target as the hips have tucked under. I'm going to keep clicking along here, and you'll be able to see even more evidence of that. You see the spine extending there. Whereas yours isn't quite there yet. Okay, so from face on, again, this would be easiest to illustrate this from here, but seeing the hips go forward, taking in the extension, looking for somewhat of this type of a look here in the follow through. Okay, so all in all, it could just go a little bit slower, and then next time I think it'd be great to see some full swings. I'd also think it'd be great to see some with the drill, and if you could send in a face on and a down the line, just to make sure I'm giving you the most accurate information. However, with that said, I still want you to keep working on the same stuff. Again, for at least from this view, it looks like the weight is way more forward when you get to shaft parallel in the downswing. So that's looking good. It just, you need to basically, the hips need to just very simply come out of that tilt just a little bit sooner, okay? So you can kind of see how Grant is in that flexion that we were talking about. He's bent over. And then when we go to parallel on the other side, you're going to see how he's definitely not. His hips have pushed underneath his head here. All right. So best of luck, and I look forward to